Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ifeoluwa. In this video, I'm going to show you how to cut and sew this notched collar crop shirt in the easiest way possible. I explained all the things that you need to learn concerning the cutting and the sewing of this shirt. So if you're interested in learning how to make this, stick around and watch this video to the end. And I appreciate all those who have subscribed to my channel. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys. And if you are seeing this and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do what to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up so it can be visible to many more people. And also feel free to leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you very much, guys. Now let's get started. So these are the measurements needed. The top length. So since this is a crop shirt, I'll just be going a little bit below my waistline. Then my bust measurements, the across back measurements, and then the armhole circumference. Now I'll be drafting out the back pattern first. So the first thing I'm going to do is to measure out my chest line measurement. So the chest line measurement is my armhole circumference divided by 2. So I have 17 inches divided by 2, which is 8.5, and then I'm going to mark out the length of the top, which is 18 inches. Then I'll mark it at the other side and draw out a straight line. So I have this as the shoulder line, this is the chest line, and then this is the top length. Now I'm going to measure out my across back measurement, which is the shoulder to shoulder measurement. I have 16 for mine divided by 2, which is 8 inches, but because this top is going to be free, I'm going to add an additional ½ inch. So I have 8.5 inches altogether. So I'll measure that out on the shoulder line and on the chest line, then I'll draw a straight line. Now in order to create my armhole curve, I'm going to come down by 1 inch from the shoulder line, and then whatever I have left, I'll divide by 2 and mark that point. Then from that point, I'll come in by 0.5 inch. Now on the chest line, I'm going to take my bust measurements divided by 4. So I have 9.5 for mine, but because of the free nature of this top, I want it to be very free, so I'm going to be adding 1 inch for ease. So altogether I have 10.5 inches. So I'm going to connect the 3 points together to create my armhole. Now I'm going to fix the same thing I have on the chest line. I'm going to fix the same thing there on the top length. So the same 10.5 inches, since it's going to be a free top. So that is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to connect them together. For the neckline, I'll be using 3 inches for the neck width, and then for the neck depth for the back, I'm going to use 1 inch. So that is the neck depth for the back. So I'm going to connect that with a curve, and then I'm going to draw out my shoulder slant. So guys, this is all for the back pattern. Then I'm going to proceed to cut out what I have. Now moving on to the front pattern, I got a wider piece of pattern paper for the front because of the way we'll be drafting it. So from the top here, I came down by 6 inches. So that is just like to create a margin because of the collar. We'll be using that part for the extension of the collar. So just use about 6 inches for the margin. So from this 6 inches is where I'll be taking my measurement. Then at the side too, I also took out 3 inches because of the button allowance we'll be fixing there too. So just create this margin for yours too. Now from the top there, that is from the margin we've created, I'm going to measure out my chest line, which is 8.5, and then I'll measure out the top length. So I'll do the same thing at the other side, and then I'm going to connect together. So I have this as my shoulder line, this is the chest line, and then this is the top length. Now from that margin line there, I'm going to fix in the across back measurement. So the same thing I used for the back, which is 8.5 inches. So the across back divided by 2 plus ½ inch for ease. I'm going to measure that on the shoulder line down to the chest line, then I'll connect together. I'll also create my armhole curve by coming down from the shoulder line with 1 inch, and then whatever I have left, I'll divide by 2, mark that point, and from that point I'm coming in by 0.5. Then on the chest line, I'm going to put my bust measurement, so that is 10.5. My bust measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch for ease. So whatever I have there, I'll also put it on the top length. Then I'll go ahead to connect those points together to create the armhole curve, and then I'll draw out a straight line from the chest line down to the top length. Now for the neckline, I'll use the same 3 inches I used for the neck width, and also 3 inches for the neck depth, and I'm going to connect a curve and also connect my shoulder slants. So now we have like a basic front pattern here. Now let's move on to drafting the collar part. So from this part here, I'm going to come out by 1 inch. So that is going to be the button allowance. So from the neckline there down to the top length, so I'm going to come out by 1 inch, and then I'm going to draw out a straight line. Now I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line to connect those points together. So this 1 inch here is the button allowance. Now I'm going to determine where I want the depth of the collar to stop. So I'm going from this shoulder part here, this top part here, to my chest line is where I want it to be. So you can go below that if you are working with a neckline that is deeper than the chest line, you can go below that, but for this one I'm going to be leaving it at the chest line, so it is usually better on the chest line. So I'm just going to draw a straight line from that point of the shoulder down to meet the button allowance, so that is the chest line area. Now I'm going to create an extension here, and to create the extension they will be using the back pattern. So this is why I cut out the back pattern first. So I'll be using the neckline of this back pattern. I'm going to measure out what I have there. So when I measured this one out, I had 3.5 inches for it. So is that 3.5 inches that I got for the back neckline? That is what I'll be extending from that shoulder part there. So you make sure your ruler is slanted like this, not straight like that. Make sure it is slant this way, and then you extend it with the 3.5 inches or whatever measurement you have for your back after cutting out. Now from this point I'm going to draw out the length of the collar, so that is how wide I want my collar to be. So I'm going to be using 4 inches. So by the time you fold it, it's going to be folded like 2 inches. So 4 inches is very much okay. Now for this one too, is not going to be straight, it's going to be a little bit slant. So if you have a pattern master like this one, this ruler that I'm using, if you have something like this, you can use it. So it is just like squaring it out. So you use your pattern master and you follow the markings there, and you draw out a straight line to meet the length of your collar. Now in order to create the notched part, I'm going to come here. So from this point here, I'm going to come up by 1 inch. Now let me quickly give you a tip for some collars. So you must have seen some collars that usually extend more than this. So if you want yours to extend more, what you're just going to do is to measure out more inches that you want, maybe 2 inches or 3 inches, and then you connect it back into the button allowance. So that's where you're going to have all those sort of collars that extend more than this one that I'm sewing. So you're just going to measure that out, and then you connect it back into the button allowance. So that is just how it is. Now after measuring out the 1 inch here, I'm going to connect it into that point. So this right here is going to be the opening for the collar. So this is the notched part of the collar. Now I'm going to use the curvy side here to connect those points together. So guys, this is the collar, and this is all for the drafting of the front pattern. Now I'm going to cut out what I have. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut out the collar, because the collar is going to stand on its own. Then I'll proceed to cut out the rest of the front pattern. If you are still watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my channel, and also give this video a thumbs up. Thank you very much. So this is how it looks like after cutting, and then you can see this part folded here. This is the collar. So this part is going to be folded after sewing, and then you have the rest as the button allowance, and then this is the collar. By the time you sew it, this is how it's also going to be. And then you can see this part that we extended with using the back neckline. It is also going to be folded into the back. So guys, that is it for the drafting of the front and the back pattern. So I'm going to cut this out on my fabric. So this is what I have after cutting on my fabric. So this is the collar, and then you can see that this part of the collar is cut out on fold. So that part is cut out on fold, and I cut out 2 pieces for this. And then I added 0.5 inch allowance round. So everywhere I added 0.5 inch allowance, apart from the part that is folded. So I cut out 2 pieces. One part is the same with the fabric, and the other part is another color that rhymes with the fabric. So that is going to be the outer part of the collar. Now this is my back pattern, which is cut out on fold, and then I added all the necessary allowance there. I added to the top length, I used 1.5 inch there, and then at the side seam I added 1 inch allowance, and then the others I added 0.5 inch allowance. And then this is the front pattern. So for the front pattern, I added 0.5 inch here on the button allowance. Then I added 1.5 inches for the hem line, and then for the neckline, the shoulder and the armhole, I added 0.5. Then side seam, I added 1.5 inch allowance. Now before I move on to sewing, I'm going to cut out a part from this front pattern. So that part is that pink part that is coming out from the collar area. So the pink part of the collar. So I'm going to cut out from this front pattern. If you can duplicate the front pattern, but since I won't be using this anymore, I'm going to just cut out directly from this part. So I'm just going to cut out a little piece from this. If you have enough fabric, you can even go as far as cutting into half. Like you can cut out half of this pattern paper, but I'm trying to manage my fabric. But just make sure that you are cutting far away from this part. So this part is the collar itself, so you make sure you are cutting far away from that part. So I'll go ahead to cut this out and also cut out on my fabric. Now this is it on the fabric. I added ½ inch here on the button allowance area, then 1.5 inches here, the same way I did for the front pattern, and then here I added ½ inch. Also on the shoulder area I added ½ inch, and then the other part too I added ½ inch. Now for the sewing, I'm going to start by joining the shoulders together. So the shoulder of the back pattern and the shoulder of the front pattern, I'll join them together. Now I'll also go ahead to sew this upper part of my collar. So this part here of the collar, I'll join the fabrics together. So the front side, the right sides facing each other, I'll join them together like so, and then I'll stitch that part up using ½ inch. So guys, this is what I have after joining the shoulders and then the upper part of that collar. So you make sure that you give this a thorough press. So later on I'm going to iron this out very well, so it's going to be very smooth. Now I'm going to set that aside. Then for this front part, this part that we cut out for the collar, I'm going to fold that part in. So I'm just going to fold it a little bit in using 0.5. So guys, this is what I have after folding that part in. Then I'm going to join this to the main front pattern. So this is the main front part, and I'm going to join them together using the button allowance there. So the ½ inch that we added for the sewing allowance there, so I'm going to use that ½ inch, and I'll go ahead to do the same thing for the other side. So guys, this is how it looks like after sewing, and then I already ironed it out very well, so that it's going to lay really well and it's going to look very neat. Now for the collar, I forgot to mention that you sew that part there. So I'll take it to my machine now and stitch up that part using the ½ inch that we used as the allowance. So guys, this is how it looks like, and then it is time to attach this collar to the neck of the front and the back. Now to attach the collar, I'm going to look for the midpoints there. So that is for the back. I'm going to just fold it like this and look for the midpoints, and I'll notch it. So I'll do the same thing for this collar too. I'm going to look for the midpoints and then I'm going to notch it. Now after notching, I'm going to attach the collar like this from the midpoint. So from the midpoint of this collar here and the midpoint of the neckline, that is from the back, I'll start attaching the collar. So you can see the part I'm sewing to the collar. So the right side of the fabric is facing the other side of this one too, of this collar. So this pink one is what is going to be outside. So I'm going to pin that all the way to the end, and by the time you get to the end, you will see that you have about 1 inch left. So you remember what the 1 inch is for. So that is the part we created the notched collar from. So it is the same 1 inch that I have left here. So I'm going to pin that, and then I'll proceed to also pin to the other side. So here I'm just showing you that you can even bring out your 1 inch before you start pinning. So you can measure out the 1 inch first, and then you start pinning from that 1 inch. So guys, this is what I have after pinning, and then what I'm going to do now is to use this part here to cover it up. So this one here is what I'll be using to cover it up. So I'm going to sew everything together like that, and also do the same thing for the other side. Now there are other methods to sew this part, but I'm just going to be going through the easier part for this one. So I'm going to take it to my machine to sew. Now after using this method, you can use your weaving machine to close up the stitches there, that is the seams that we've made. So it's not going to be covered. So this method is just like an easy way to fix the collar without going through too much stress. So guys, this is what I have after sewing. You can use your weaving machine to cover up that part, or you can use a bias tape to sew up that part just so you can cover it up. So you can see how it looks like here after I properly ironed it. So this is what I have, and then the button allowance is still there. Now I'm going to fix in my sleeves. I'm using a short sleeve for this, so I'll fix in the sleeves and then I'll sew the sides. After sewing the sides, I'll also tape in the hemline. So guys, this is the end result of the shirt. So I also went ahead to fix in my button. So I created my button allowance and then I fixed in the button. So this is all for this shirt. So we've come to the end of this tutorial. Let me know if this was helpful, and let me know if you are going to be trying this out. So do not forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and also give this video a thumbs up, and also feel free to leave your questions or your comments in the comment section. Thank you very much guys. I'm going to see you in my next tutorial. Bye.